More likely than not, it's going to take a couple years. Right now, we have filed our suit, 13 states. We have additional states that have to file suit. We'll file what's called an amended complaint in the middle of May. The federal government will have 30 days to file a response to it, motion to dismiss what we have filed on our amended complaint. And then the legal battle back and forth will go forward through the summer. September, I believe, I'm going to double check my dates here. September is where it's right now scheduled for argument as to any motion to dismiss filed by the government against this lawsuit. More likely than not, the loser of that litigation at that point in time, if it's certified to go up for appeal, if all facts are out of the way, then we go to the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals. The loser of that one would probably take it to the Supreme Court of the United States. I truly believe this will go that far. Let me add, because one of the questions or comments that my opponents always make is, how could you spend taxpayers' money to do this? We're not really spending taxpayer money to do this. We're doing this within the Office of Attorney General. As I said, Florida is the lead state on this. We sent down my signature by electronic signature. In this day and age, we can do that. We have been consulting, we have been talking, we have been researching with them. We have not incurred any outside expense other than some of our lawyers in this office working on it.
Is the Attorney General of Florida independently elected or appointed
Yes,
by
he
the
is.
governor? Okay.
Yes, he is. No,
so it's a plural executive in Florida.
We were the last one to have an appointed, and now they're all
right.
elected.
That's exactly right. In fact, I'm only the 4th elected Attorney General in the history of Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm. And one that, as a Republican, you received more votes than any Republican in any election in the history of the Commonwealth, which is an aside, but it's quite
very humbling.
Quite remarkable. Well, what's the very next step, General, in this, in our last 30 seconds?
The next step is the amended complaint will be filed with additional states coming on board, such as Indiana. That takes place in the middle of May, and then the government responds in June, and they'll file a motion to dismiss, and then there'll be briefs going back and forth, and as I said, the court will have a hearing in the middle of September.
Mm-hmm. Jerry, last question?
I think you wrapped it up right there.
Good.
If you have any, I always like to leave it, let our guests
have
the opportunity to say if there's anything else.
Thank you for allowing me to come on and explain this. As I said, we're not against health care reform, but we are against violating the Constitution of the United States.
Thank you for explaining this to us and the people of Pennsylvania, General, and we look forward to following this suit and see what happens. And Jerry, thanks for filling in for Maura. We're coming up with another edition of the Arnold Report. Hang on for that, and we'll be right back with you. Thank you, General.
Thank you very much.
Behind the Headlines is brought to you as a public service by PAConstructionJobs.com, where you can look for job openings, post a resume, or learn more about a rewarding career in Pennsylvania's highway construction industry. And by the Pennsylvania Business Council, envisioning a commonwealth in which residents enjoy a very high quality of life in sustainable communities. The Council works aggressively to define key long-term policy strategies and solutions that make the Commonwealth more competitive, creating and sustaining a better Pennsylvania. Additional underwriting provided by the Worrell Corporation Foundation, based in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. By Weber Incorporated, a leading manufacturer of hardwood lumber and wood products. The Highway Equipment and Supply Company, Central and Northeast Pennsylvania's authorized distributor for premier construction equipment manufacturers. And the American Home Bank, a nationally chartered and FDIC insured yet locally owned and operated bank in central Pennsylvania. And by the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association. Business in Pennsylvania is our business. Behind the Headlines is also supported as a public service by Daily Express, transporting construction, farm, and industrial equipment throughout the United States.
Hi, welcome back to the second segment of Behind the Headlines. On this segment, I'm joined by Mr. Ed Arnold for another edition of the Arnold Report. Ed, welcome to the show.
Good to see you again, Charlie.
It's nice to see you. Thank you so much for joining us. Right now in the United States, there is lots of discussion about where President Obama and his policies are taking us. And there's a lot of concern of us going into more of a socialist pathway and adopting more socialism. This word is bandied about quite a bit. As I understand socialism, socialism is traditionally defined as simply a government system, and there are lots of different government systems, which simply has adopted an economic policy to try to equalize wealth within society. That's what socialism is. Is President Obama taking us down more of a pathway towards socialism, Ed?
Well, first of all, I'd like to step back a moment and say that, number one, we have two forms of governments. We have elected governments and we have non-elected governments, which are more totalitarian monarchy or whatever form.
Or a dictatorship.
A dictatorship or something.
Okay, those three.
Or like China, which is sort of an oligarchy type situation.
An authoritarian oligarchy.
Yes.
And an oligarchy, by the way, is rule of the few.
Yes, that is
Okay.
correct. At the same time, you only have two economic systems, socialism and capitalism. I would tend to more look at socialism as having a tremendous number of safety nets. Obviously, therefore, since safety nets have a cost, yes, those who have greater wealth will fund more of the safety net, and those who don't. Not that its number one goal is to redistribute wealth, but rather to redistribute benefits, which obviously all cannot afford equally.
And safety nets are really, when you talk about safety nets, you're talking about government programs that try to assist segments of society.
Okay, the ultimate safety net that we're all familiar with in this country is Social Security. Now, first, Social Security, somehow we have believed, because the politicians have made it more plausible to us Americans who basically believe in capitalism, to say that we are setting up a socialist system wouldn't have sold very well. So they called it, said, you're paying for it. And everybody keeps saying, I'm entitled to my Social Security. That is not correct. Social Security is a safety net. If it was an insurance program, if you put in $1, you would hope to get out $1 and some few dollars above that. And everybody else, whether you put in $100, $1 million, you would get the same dollars out. That is not the way Social Security works. Social Security, if you're in the lower 1/3 of the contributing people, let's say you were always on minimum wage, for every dollar you put in, you will get 6 times more units out than if I, who have always been in the maximum bracket, has put in. I will only get 1 unit out when you're getting 6 out. My dollar is the same as your dollar. So obviously you're getting more back than I'm getting back. You have a safety net, I have a return on my money.
So you're saying that under the Obama administration, we've seen the government, the national government, take control of 2 of the 3 major automobile companies. It's taken control over much of the American banking industry and over mortgages. And now there's the health care bill that's out there, Ed. And how far further down the road of socialism will this health care reform bill take us now that it's been passed?
I think the one thing, again, I keep going back, the government presently is half our healthcare system. We don't realize how far we've already come. Right now in the United States, 50% of the cost of healthcare is borne by the government, primarily Social Security, which is, of course, Medicaid and Medicare, and also military. So basically, we already have a major socialized medicine. This will move us extremely further. Unfortunately, what it's really doing, American system, the biggest problem with it today, or one of the problems, I should say, one of the many problems, is it is extremely too much paperwork. This system, if you try to read this bill, and I tried to read it, it is a horror of audits, checks, balances, all these organizations that are being created to continually monitor. Our system is not going to give any health care, it's just going to check health care. I can say and I'm no longer, I'm retired, but as a private employer, and I had over 1,000 employees, looking at what I can understand with this system, I might have flagged out and said, I'll pay the $2,000 penalty. This system is so bad and so complicated and so impossible. It's like our tax code, really. You could be completely conscientious, and you cannot, if you are a large business, properly pay your taxes, because the tax code, nobody knows what the answers are.